He was one of the most mysterious figures in the world of global finance. Khalid al-Rashid, an Arab millionaire known not only for his staggering wealth, but for his reclusive nature. Born into a royal bloodline, he vanished in the public eye for years, retreating to a quiet life in Southeast Asia, leaving behind a trail of unanswered questions and half-whispered rumors. But the most curious chapter of his story began not in a boardroom, but in the driver's seat of a black Mercedes. Her name was Hannah, a Thai woman in her early 30s, soft-spoken, meticulous, and fiercely independent. She had no clue who Khalid really was when she was hired through a private agency. To her, he was simply Mr. Kareem, a quiet, polite foreign businessman who paid well and asked little. But over time, she noticed things. The way he gazed out the window as if searching for something lost, the strange letters he burned at night, the silver ring he always wore on his right hand, etched with an unfamiliar crest. Months passed, and the distance between employer and employee began to blur. What started with polite conversation turned into long, thoughtful exchanges during drives through the rain-soaked streets of Bangkok. He began to open up, sharing cryptic glimpses into a past Hannah didn't fully understand but instinctively respected. Then, one rainy evening, everything changed. Khalid asked her to pull over by the riverside. The street lamps glistened off the pavement, and mist rose from the Chow Phraya. Silence hung thick in the air before he turned to her and said, "If I were to ask you something unthinkable, would you say yes, Hannah?" She frowned, confused. "It depends," she said honestly. Unthinkable doesn't always mean wrong. That night, in an intimate ceremony attended by no more than 5 people, Khalid married his driver. The world didn't know. The royal houses didn't speak. But in that little circle of trust, a sacred bond had been formed. Their life together was simple, serene, and filled with quiet joy. Khalid smiled more often. Hannah laughed again. And for the first time in years, he slept without nightmares. Until one night, she found him in the library. The light was dim, flickering against the rain-streaked windows. And in his arms was a child. A boy, no older than 5, dressed in clothes too large for his frame, with haunting amber eyes that mirrored Khalid's exactly. Hannah stood frozen. Her gaze locked onto the boy, then slowly shifted to her husband. He looked up at her, holding the child close to his chest like something sacred. His eyes were wet, not from fear, but from a sorrow too deep for words. "Khalid," Hannah's voice trembled. "Who is he?" There was a pause, then a whisper. "He's my son." Those 3 words hit her like a crashing wave. He stood slowly, placing the child on a chair beside him. The boy clutched a small wooden car in one hand and looked at her without blinking. "I should have told you," Khalid began, his voice strained. "But I didn't know how. I didn't know if I could." "Why now?" Hannah asked, barely above a whisper. "Why tonight?" "Because she's coming for him." "Who?" "My ex-wife." That name, that shadow, that piece of Khalid's past Hannah had only heard in broken phrases, never full stories. Khalid exhaled, sat down, and gestured for her to join him. "Her name is Layla," he said. She was a perfect bride on paper, royal lineage, elegance, ambition. But behind the veil was someone ruthless, someone who didn't care about love, only legacy. He continued, eyes darkening. "She left when our son was just a baby, took money, secrets, and vanished. I searched for years. I gave up until I found this boy, left in the care of a distant relative, abandoned like a burden." Hannah stared at the boy, who hadn't moved. "He doesn't speak?" "Not yet. Trauma, the doctors say. But he understands everything." "And now she wants him back?" Hannah asked, voice growing sharp. "She wants control," Khalid said. "Not the child. The story, the power. She's returned to the public eye, and she needs a perfect narrative." Hannah stepped closer to the boy. She kneeled slowly until she was at eye level with him. "Do you know who I am?" she asked softly. The boy blinked. Then, gently, he reached out and touched her face. And for the first time, he whispered, "Mama." Something inside her shattered. Not from pain, but from a sudden, overwhelming surge of love and fear. She pulled him into her arms and held him, her eyes meeting Khalid's. "I don't care who's coming," she said, steady and certain. "No one is taking him." But they were already being watched. That night, Hannah saw a black car parked across the street for hours. No license plates. No driver in sight. The next morning, a letter was slipped under their door. No return address. No signature. It simply read, "Return what isn't yours or face the consequences." Khalid's face hardened. The past wasn't knocking. It was kicking down the door. And somewhere, in a palace far away, Layla was preparing her move. Not for reunion. For war. Khalid didn't sleep that night. He stood by the window in silence, watching the shadows shift under moonlight. Hannah sat on the couch with the boy sleeping in her arms, the soft rise and fall of his chest the only thing anchoring her to calm. But beneath the surface, her heart was pounding. She had never felt so deeply responsible for another life. Not even when she agreed to marry Khalid. Not even when the world outside still believed she was just the driver. Khalid turned from the window and looked at her. "We can't stay here." Hannah nodded. "They already know where we are." "I have a property," he said, "south of Phuket. No one knows it exists, not even the people who work for me." "Are we running?" Hannah asked, her voice low but sharp. "Or are we regrouping?" Khalid hesitated, then crossed the room and sat beside her. He looked at the child, tucked safely against her shoulder. "I've been running for too long," he said. "This time, I'm preparing for war." The next morning, before sunrise, they were already on the road. Khalid drove the black SUV himself. He didn't trust anyone now. Hannah kept the boy close in the back seat, humming softly to calm him as the highway stretched endlessly before them. They passed checkpoints, surveillance cameras, quiet border towns, but no one stopped them. Not yet. By the time they reached a remote estate hidden deep in the coastal forest, the sun was high and the air smelled of sea salt and pine. The property was protected by a steel gate disguised by dense jungle, and the house beyond was more bunker than villa. Reinforced walls, satellite jammers, and enough supplies to last for months. Khalid guided them inside and activated the lockdown protocols. Hannah stood in awe, realizing for the first time just how prepared he was for a life of exile. "You built all this for him?" she asked. "No," Khalid said quietly. "For the truth, I just didn't know he'd be part of it." That night, the boy finally spoke again. They were sitting around a low table having dinner, a soft breeze drifting in through the open terrace doors. He looked at Khalid, then at Hannah, and said in a trembling voice, "She used to scream a lot. The woman, she said I was a mistake." Hannah dropped her spoon. Khalid closed his eyes, pain rippling across his face. "No," he said gently. "You are not a mistake. You are my son." The boy looked down. "Then why did she leave me?" There was no easy answer. Hannah reached out and held his hand. "Some people leave because they're broken inside, but that's not your fault." A storm rolled in that night. Thunder cracked across the sky as rain lashed the windows, and somewhere in the chaos, a single encrypted message came through Khalid's private satellite network. He stared at the screen for a long time. "She's arriving in Bangkok tomorrow," he said finally. "Private jet, and she's not coming alone." Hannah stood behind him, reading over his shoulder. These names, military escorts, lawyers, politicians. "She's trying to weaponize the system," Khalid replied. "She wants a legal custody battle. In the public eye. She wants to make me look like the one who abandoned our child, and then swoop in like a savior. But if it becomes public," Hannah said, "won't the world know the truth?" "She has resources," Khalid muttered, "more than we can match. And she has leverage, documents, photos, things from my past that could destroy more than just my reputation. She's not here for love. She's here for narrative. And she'll sacrifice anyone to build it." Hannah clenched her fists. "Then let's write our own." The next morning, she recorded a video, raw, unedited, powerful. She sat with the boy beside her and looked straight into the lens. "My name is Hannah. I am a wife, a mother, and a protector." She told their story, from the moment she met Khalid to the night she found the child. She spoke with no anger, only resolve, exposing not just Layla's betrayal but the strength of the family she now fiercely protected. When she was done, Khaled uploaded the video to 3 global platforms under anonymous routing protocols. Within hours, it went viral. Millions viewed, thousands commented, hashtags trended, and among the noise, a question echoed across continents. Who is Layla al-Rashid, and why is she trying to take a child she left behind? Khaled stood back from the screen. We just changed the battlefield. But victory would not come easily. Just before sunset, a black drone flew past a villa. Silent, fast, and clearly not civilian. Khaled looked up sharply. They found us. Seconds later, an alert blared through the house's security system. Unauthorized breach. Multiple thermal signatures detected beyond the outer perimeter. Hannah grabbed the boy and ran toward the panic room, while Khaled opened a hidden cabinet behind a bookshelf, revealing a biometric gun locker. His hands were calm, steady. He had trained for this day. The boy clung to Hannah in the dark corridor. Will they take me? Hannah knelt down and kissed his forehead. They'll have to get through me first. The panic room door sealed with the softness behind them, layers of reinforced steel sliding into place. The room was dimly lit, silent except for the faint hum of the filtration system. Hannah crouched beside the boy, arms wrapped tightly around him as he buried his face in her shoulder. Her breath was steady, but her heart was racing. Somewhere above, danger was approaching, and Khaled was facing alone. He moved like a ghost through the corridors of the villa, every step precise, calculated. He knew every blind spot, every angle, every advantage this house gave him. Surveillance cameras fed directly into his watch, revealing the figures breaching the outer perimeter. 3 men, armed, wearing black tactical gear, no insignia, not government, mercenaries, Layla's. He waited until they reached the main hallway before disabling the front lights. Darkness swallowed the interior in an instant. The intruders froze, disoriented. Khaled was already in motion. He moved from shadow to shadow, cutting through the silence with the efficiency of a trained soldier. Though he had never worn a uniform, war had always circled his life. The first man went down without a sound, dragged into shadows with a sharp twist of the wrist and a silent shot to the leg. Not fatal. Khaled didn't want blood if he could avoid it, but mercy had limits. The second spotted movement too late. Khaled tackled him against the wall, gun barrel pressed to the man's temple. "Who sent you?" he growled. The mercenary sneered, refusing to answer. Khaled didn't push. There were better ways to get answers later. He sedated the man with a fast-acting injection from a pouch beneath his jacket and let him collapse to the floor. Only one remained, and that one was heading straight toward the corridor leading to the panic room. Inside, Hannah felt the boy tense. Something in the air had changed. The silence had become heavier, more alert. She pressed her ear to the wall, listening. Footsteps. Slow, cautious, getting closer. Her hand moved instinctively to the drawer beside the wall panel, pulling out a compact pistol Khaled had placed there weeks ago just in case. She had never imagined she'd actually use it. She stood, shielding the boy behind her. The room was shielded, yes, but the door could be compromised with enough time and firepower. The soft beep of security override system chirped once, twice, then stopped. A pause, and then asterisk bang, asterisk. The sound of a struggle. Shouting, heavy crashing. Hannah grabbed the boy and held him tight, heart slamming against her ribs like a war drum. A few seconds passed before silence returned, and then the panic room speaker buzzed. "It's me," came Khaled's voice, breathless but clear. "They're neutralized." "It's safe." The door unsealed with a hiss. Hannah stepped out, the boy clinging to her arm. Khaled stood at the entrance, his shirt stained with sweat, a shallow cut bleeding near his temple, but his eyes sharp and alive. "We need to move," he said. This was just a warning. Hannah glanced at the unconscious bodies behind him. A warning? He nodded grimly. They weren't sent to take the child, just to test how far I'd go to protect him. "And now she knows," Hannah murmured. "She knows you won't hesitate." "She also knows we're not running anymore," Khaled added, "and that makes us dangerous." They worked quickly, dragging the mercenaries to the underground holding cell Khalid had built beneath the villa. The system there would keep them contained until the proper authorities could be contacted, assuming any authority could be trusted. Layla's influence reached deep. As night fell, they sat together in the inner courtyard. The boy slept curled up beside Hannah, safe once more for now. Khalid rubbed his temples, exhausted. This is bigger than just custody. She's trying to tear apart every shred of credibility I have. And not just mine, ours. She's making sure no one believes we're the family we claim to be. Hannah looked at him, her expression thoughtful. Then we show them what family really means. He turned to her. We go back to the city, she continued. We face her, not through lawyers, not through backroom deals. We show the world what she abandoned and what we built. You want to walk into her trap? I want to burn her trap down. With truth. Khalid considered her words carefully. In his world, truth had always been currency, the most dangerous kind. But as he looked at her, as he looked at the boy sleeping between them, he realized something. This wasn't about reputation anymore. This was about legacy, about breaking the cycle of fear. We'll need allies, he said, and the right stage. I know someone, Hannah replied. A journalist I once drove for. Honest, brave. She owes me a favor. 3 days later, they were back in Bangkok, hiding in plain sight in a small apartment above a tailor shop. The journalist, Mai the Nat, arrived that evening, her eyes wide the moment she saw the child. My God, he looks just like him. Hannah nodded. He is him, and we need to tell his story. Mai agreed. The plan was set. In less than 48 hours, they will hold a press conference, live-streamed, unfiltered, no PR spin, no bodyguards, just the truth. But Layla was already one step ahead, because the night before the broadcast, the child disappeared. The moment Hannah discovered the empty bed, her scream shattered the silence of the apartment. Kyle was already halfway down the hallway, gun in hand, eyes wide with disbelief. The blankets were tossed aside. The small stuffed camel the boy always held was lying on the floor, its stitched eye torn loose. The window above the fire escape was open, the curtain fluttering in the midnight breeze. He was here just 2 hours ago, Hannah whispered, searching the room with frantic hands, her voice cracking. He was asleep. I tucked him in myself. Khalid's mind raced, calculating every possibility. There had been no signs of forced entry. The security locks hadn't been tripped. Whoever took him knew exactly what they were doing, and exactly how to avoid detection. Layla, he growled, clenching his fists. She must have someone watching us, inside the city close. Hannah sank to the floor, breathing heavily, panic clawing at her chest. She took him. She took my baby. Khalid knelt beside her, gripping her shoulders firmly. We're not going to lose him. Do you hear me? I will find him. I swear on everything I built, I'll bring him back. Mai burst through the door moments later, her face pale. I just got a message, she said breathlessly, holding up her phone. From a private, untraceable source. It's a video. They gathered around the screen. The video began in an opulent room, too clean, too artificial. The boy sat on a velvet couch, looking scared but unharmed. A woman stepped into the frame, dressed in a silver gown, her posture regal, her expression calm and calculated. It was Layla. Hello, Khalid, she said in perfect English, her voice smooth as silk. And greetings to your new wife. I must say, your taste has become surprisingly plebeian. Hannah's eyes narrowed. Layla continued, walking gracefully across the room to sit beside the boy. He flinched slightly when she touched his shoulder. Don't worry. He's safe. For now. But let's not pretend I won't do what needs to be done if you continue to drag our family name through the mud. Khalid's jaw tightened. This press conference you're planning? Cancel it. Immediately. Or the next video the world sees will be something far less polished. The screen went black. Silence lingered in the room, thick and suffocating. She has him, Hannah said, her voice now steady. Cold, controlled, and she's taunting us. She doesn't just want to hurt me, Khalid replied. She wants to erase me. rewrite the past. Take him, mold him into her heir, her puppet. She doesn't love him. She needs him to control the narrative. I look between them. Then what do? We give her what she wants, Khalid said slowly. We cancel the press conference. Hannah turned to him, shocked. What? No, that's exactly what she wants. And while she celebrates, he said, standing, voice tightening into resolve, we'll move quietly, surgically. I know someone, a man in Istanbul. He runs private operations for people like me, off the record. If anyone can find out where Layla is hiding him, it's him. We don't have time for back-channel diplomacy, Hannah snapped. We don't need diplomacy, Khalid replied. We need precision. Later that night, under the cover of darkness, Khalid boarded a discreet charter jet bound for Istanbul, while Hannah and I remained behind to maintain the illusion that they had surrendered. As the jet climbed into the night sky, Khalid stared out the window, haunted by the image of his son sitting beside the woman who had abandoned him. A storm raged in his chest, not just fear but fury. For years he had hidden, had compromised, had swallowed his pride for the sake of peace. No more. When he landed in Istanbul, he was met by a man known only as Aslan, a former intelligence officer with deep scars and deeper contacts. In a quiet backroom of a waterfront cafe, Khalid handed him the flash drive containing the video. She has him, Khalid said. I need to know where. Aslan studied the footage silently. Then he leaned back. She made a mistake. That chandelier, Italian crystal. Only 3 of that model were ever shipped to Southeast Asia, and only 1 to Bangkok. Khalid leaned forward. Where? Aslan smiled grimly. A luxury penthouse owned by a shell company tied to Layla's uncle, under renovation for years until last week. Back in Bangkok, Hannah received a message at 2:17 a.m. Found him. I'm going in tonight. She replied without hesitation. Then I'm coming too. Within hours, she was on her way. The plan was dangerous, reckless, but waiting wasn't an option. Neither of them could sleep knowing the child they loved was a pawn in someone else's war. By the time she landed in Bangkok, Khalid was already in position. Aslan's team had mapped the building, guard rotations, surveillance gaps, escape routes. At 3:08 a.m., they breached the service entrance. Khalid moved like a phantom, disabling cameras, sedating guards. Hannah followed behind, every step powered by pure instinct and adrenaline. When they reached the upper floors, the silence became oppressive. Then they heard it, a voice, soft, familiar. I want to go home. They followed the sound to a room lined with gold and mirrors. The boy sat on the bed, hands in his lap, speaking to a woman out of view. I don't like this place, he said. It smells fake. Khalid stepped into the light. You're coming home now. The boy's head snapped up. His eyes widened. Baba? Before he could move, Layla appeared from the shadows, holding a gun. It was pointed at Khalid. Her eyes burned with rage. You think you can just take him from me? She spat. He's mine. Khalid didn't flinch. He's not an object. He's our son. You forfeited that right, she snarled. Then Hannah stepped in, her voice low and clear. And you gave up that right the day you walked away. The room pulsed with tension. Layla's hand trembled. Her finger hovered over the trigger. And then the boy did the unthinkable. He stood, walked forward, and placed himself between his mother and Khalid. Stop, he said. A single word that froze the room. The silence that followed that one fragile word, stop, felt like time itself had paused to listen. Layla stood frozen, gun still raised, but her arm trembling now with something she had never expected to feel. Uncertainty. The boy looked up at her, not with fear, but with something far more devastating, disappointment. You left me, he said softly. You said I was a mistake. Her lips parted as if to deny it, but no words came. Her mask of power cracked in a way no scandal ever could. Those 4 words echoed to the gold-coated room louder than any scream, louder than any bullet. Layla looked at the child who bore her blood, yet held none of her fire, and saw in his eyes not judgment, but a quiet strength she could never claim as her own. Khalid took a step forward, voice steady but edge of the fury of 1,000 sleepless nights. "Put the gun down, Layla. It's over. This game, this obsession, this need to control everything around you, it ends tonight." She blinked, suddenly looking smaller. Her posture wavered. Her power, which for so long had been crafted through fear, manipulation, and wealth, shriveled beneath the weight of her son's simple truth. Slowly, her arm lowered. The gun slipped from her hand and hit the floor with a dull thud. She stepped back, as if waking from a trance. Security stormed in seconds later. Aslan's men, swift and precise. They surrounded Layla, but didn't touch her. She didn't resist. Her empire, her threats, her carefully constructed illusion, all undone by a child's voice and a family's unshakable will. Aslan nodded to Khalid, signaling the extraction. Hannah scooped the boy into her arms, holding him tightly. He wrapped his arms around her neck and whispered, "I knew you'd come." Tears ran down her face. "I will always come for you," she replied. Outside, dawn was breaking. A soft golden light spilled over the Bangkok skyline, casting a warm glow over the helipad where a private jet waited. It was the same one Khalid had once used to run from his past. Now, it would carry him toward a future he was finally ready to claim. As the jet ascended into the clouds, the family sat together, not bound by blood alone, but by choice, sacrifice, and love forged in the fire of chaos. Hannah held the boy in her lap, brushing his hair back gently as he drifted into peaceful sleep, his head against her shoulder. Khalid sat across from her, watching them with a gaze that carried both exhaustion and hope. He had spent years hiding from the world, believing love was weakness and truth was dangerous. But now, in this quiet moment above the earth, he realized something profound. The greatest wealth a man could possess wasn't measured in bank accounts, assets, or empires. It was the family that stood beside him when everything else fell away. Weeks later, the truth was everywhere. Mai's final report, accompanied by footage and documents leaked by Khalid himself, exploded across international media. The narrative Layla tried to control collapsed under the weight of reality. Public sympathy turned. Legal tides shifted. The courts ruled in Khalid's favor. Sole custody granted. Layla barred from contact until she underwent psychiatric evaluation. But this victory wasn't just legal. It was emotional. It was spiritual. And it was personal. Khalid and Hannah moved to a quiet countryside home overlooking the sea. No more bodyguards. No more security systems buried in walls. Just a garden, a porch swing, and a future. The boy, now more talkative, playful, and filled with curiosity, began to draw. First, stick figures of Mama and Baba. Then, vivid sketches of the places they'd been, the things they'd escaped, and the hope they carried with them. One day, he handed Khalid a picture that stopped him cold. It was their little family, smiling beneath a tree, and above them, written in blocky handwriting, "This is real." That night, under the stars, Khalid sat with Hannah on the porch swing, the boy fast asleep inside. He looked out at the moonlit waves and said, "I spent so long trying to control the story, never realizing the story was always meant to grow on its own." Hannah leaned her head against his shoulder. That's what love does. It doesn't follow a script. It writes its own. He smiled, his first unburdened smile in years. "Do you regret marrying a driver?" she asked playfully. He laughed softly. "That was the only decision I got right without hesitation." They stayed like that, wrapped in silence, the kind of silence that doesn't ask for anything, the kind that says, "We made it." The world would continue to write headlines, to speculate, to turn whispers into noise. But none of that mattered anymore, because somewhere in a house by the sea, a boy slept peacefully for the first time in his life. A woman who once drove strangers now drove a family forward. And a man who once ruled empires now ruled only his heart. Fiercely, fearlessly, finally. And they would never again live in the shadows of someone else's story. They were the story, and the world would remember it forever.